Hello, I'm your host today, Alex McTaggart, and I'm talking to you today about something called regenerative development and how we get there. As you probably all know, the world just passed the climate threshold of 1.5 degrees global warming last week, putting us in a rather difficult situation vis-a-vis our future and the futures of our children and their children. So part of my work, in fact, a large part of it, deals with the way that education plays a part in creating more positive futures by building future citizens who are aware of the challenges that this world is beset by and know where to get valid information on that and understand how to become a part of making this world survivable for them and for their children. So when we speak of development, we often think of progress, growth, expansion, improvement. But what if development were not about producing more, but about restoring what has been lost? Time, meaning, reciprocity, trust. So regenerative development asks us to turn back to the ethical and ecological roots of education. It's not process through or progress through accumulation, but it's renewal through relation. It reminds us that learning is a living process, an act of belonging to the world, not of mastering it. In contrast to the efficiency and measurement that dominate neoliberal education, most forms of education today, let's be honest, regenerative development invites a pedagogy that is both existential and planetary. It rebuilds community, it heals ecology. It asks not, how can we compete, but how can we care? Paulo Freire stands at the heart of this vision. For him, education was an act of liberation, awakening consciousness and reclaiming the right to name the world. Freire called love the animating force of pedagogy. Through love, the oppressed regain their agency, the power to transform reality itself. Moacir Gadotti took Freire's insights and expanded them into eco-pedagogy, education for life on a threatened planet. For Gadotti, the Earth has become the new oppressed. The planet itself is the victim of oppression. To educate for sustainability, he said, was to educate for life. We are unfinished, relational beings, always in motion, shaping ourselves and our world through care and through hope. Gadotti's vision bridges ethics and ecology. It sees education as the reweaving of moral fabric between human and non-human, between knowledge and consequence. It welcomes uncertainty and incompleteness, not as flaws, but as the essence of being human. Here, leadership must be grounded in care, and care, as Joan Tronter reminds us, is not sentimentality, it's an epistemic stance. It means attentiveness, responsibility, competence, and responsiveness. It's the recognition that all action is situated, that all beings are vulnerable, and that dependence is not weakness, but the very texture of life. Jem Bendel's deep adaptation framework amplifies this call to care by confronting the uncomfortable truth that systemic collapse is not a possibility, it's an inevitability. Bendel proposes 4 responses: resilience, relinquishment, restoration, and reconciliation. And later he adds a 5th, reclamation, the recovery of meaning after loss. In the realm of education, reclamation is an act of epistemic renewal. It challenges us to abandon the inherited ways of knowing that keep us trapped in unsustainable systems, to reimagine new ones that are life affirming. In this sense, education becomes like a map. It becomes cartographic, a practice of orientation, a way of finding ourselves again in the space where we are, in this place in time, on a damaged earth. This is where my own work on stewardship leadership through the four crises, ecological, epistemological, affective, and ethical, finds its place. Leadership today is no longer about control. It's about orientation and care. The leader is not a commander of outcomes, but a custodian of maps, a navigator who helps others see where they stand and how they might move forward together. Stewardship doesn't promise certainty, it asks for courage. It's the art of acting amid ambiguity, balancing knowledge with compassion and critique with responsibility. If we think back to earlier stages of human life, reproduction, birth, nurture, we see the pattern. Each stage carries the seeds of renewal. Reproduction brings continuity. Birth brings potential. Nurture sustains care. And development, regenerative development, reclaims purpose. It's the moment we recognize our place within the planetary whole and act accordingly through stewardship. Through stewardship, education becomes the mirror in which we remember that knowledge is never neutral. Learning is always relational, and leadership is the moral work of holding these relations in balance. This is not to romanticize leadership at all. As Günther Anders warned, our greatest danger is not our technology, it's our forgetfulness, our inability to grasp the moral scale of our own power. Regenerative leadership resists that forgetfulness. It replaces acceleration with duration, optimization with care. It tends to the conditions of renewal, soil, time, trust. Leadership becomes less about commanding the future and more about curating the possibilities of survival. When we weave together Freire's liberation, Gadotti's eco-pedagogy, Bendel's reclamation, Tronto's ethics of care, Anders's moral warning, and the practice of stewardship, we arrive at a living praxis of regenerative development. It's not a theory of progress, but of continuity, not a strategy of growth, but of regrowth. Education in this frame becomes a site for planetary healing, and leadership, its moral vocation, is to regenerate the very conditions of knowing, caring, and enduring. Regenerative development reframes leadership as world-making through care. It fuses justice, love, and planetary time into a new ethic of growth. Education as renewal, not optimization. In a world overwhelmed by metrics and mechanisms, regenerative leadership reclaims the moral imagination as the ground of human development. It invites us, all of us, to take part in the collective labor of rebuilding life. This is stewardship leadership through cartographies of knowing. I'm Alex McTaggart. Thank you for listening, and remember, to lead is not to command, but to care, to regenerate